Adams, and I am the author of LIFESTARS. So, LIFESTARS, SIDDEEQAH Adams. Alright, there once was a boy from the island of Jamaica who loved to spend time with his mom. They go to the market, engage with the igloos, vibrant colors, scents, and smiles. The smell of the mangoes and novel oranges, curry, spices, and thyme. Each moment with her made a bond with him that only got better with time. She was just like sunlight to him. Her rays made everything grow. He depended on her to shine light every day and share all that she knows. She'd say things to teach him life lessons like 1 cocoa full basket. Eventually, he learned the value of saving for the unexpected. To him, she was a life star just as powerful as the sun. In their home, in their community, she showed the power of one. To have his mom was to have love, have light, and even hope. Like most mothers, their love is shown even when they tell us nope. That boy went out and shared the light he received from his mother, that positive energy he carried around and used it to cheer up others. Are you sitting alone at recess? He'd ask you to come, get up and play. Is your smile upside down? He surely would find the right words to say. Is the teacher feeling frustrated? He'd bring them a special present. Is there a kid bullying others? He just might teach them a lesson. Same old boring lunch? I'm sure he'd share with you. He brightened many days, and there's no reason that you can't too. Only being nice in school? No way! It did not stop there. He helped take care of his grandparents. His treatment of them was fair. They didn't lift a finger not to clean or to work outside. When his dad moved him to America, I heard that his grandparents cried. Around his house, he did his chores and never with any complaints. His mom saw how he respected her. In her heart, she would give thanks. When he shared his light, he always left something small within. A light inside your heart. There's no way to keep it all in. He was the life-giving star that the world needed to prevent a disaster. Everywhere he went, he left a trail of smiles and laughter. He shared his smile, jokes, and high spirit with everyone in town. If you were having a sad, sad day, it would change when he was around. When I met him, I was often sad and feeling overloaded. He would jump right in, no questions asked. My heart almost exploded. It changed me in a way. It gave me hope and left me feeling excited. I wanted to spread it to everyone. In fact, I became inspired to tell everyone about their own light with hopes they brighten our world, to remind them of what they have inside in every boy and every girl. It starts with you. You are the one. You are a shining light. Spread kindness, joy, and help others too. Let's be friends and not fight. Tell your neighbor something nice. LIFESTARS lead the way. And soon, everyone's light will shine, making our world a better place to stay. Wear your star upon your heart. Never forget it's there. Let it remind you that many others may need you to share. Spread joy and make it contagious. Make it a chain reaction. Those of us who are true life stars will put this into action.
Hi, I am Mr. Colton PRISM, and this is my book, The Unbelievable Adventures of KADEN and RUBIK. And I'm going to share the back of the book just so that way you can get an idea of what the book is about. It says, I'm KADEN, a 10 years, 2 months, and 21 days old boy on the autism spectrum. However, my autism doesn't define me. Mom and Dad say being autistic means I perceive the world a little differently than others, although I'm not sure how other people see it because it doesn't look all that different to me. At times, I have trouble expressing myself and unfortunately have difficulties making friends. I have always wanted a friend, someone other than my best friend RUBIK. He is my 3-year-old rescue therapy dog, and the two of us are inseparable when I am not at school. One afternoon, while I am working on my homework, a mysterious glowing light appears beneath my closet door. Before I have time to inspect it, the light vanishes. After getting ready for bed, the light returns once more. This time, it disappears as Mom comes into my bedroom to say goodnight. It is not until the next day, after arriving home from school, that I discover the illumination is a magical portal leading to places of my wildest imaginations. As I follow Rubik into the light, I have no idea what awaits us as we embark on our first adventure through the portal in my closet. Throughout the week, Rubik and I journey on 3 fantastical adventures filled with laughter, excitement, valuable lessons, and growth. Now, with summer quickly approaching, will I be destined to spend my vacation cooped up in my room, tapping away on my tablet? Or will the wisdom and courage I gain throughout the adventures be enough for me to finally build a friendship I have been longing for?
All right, so my name is TAMARA DESTEFANO, and I'm an author, illustrator, I guess you can call me. I started out illustrating, and I started actually writing adult novels, but I feel like my voice lends more towards young adult or picture books. So I tried my hand at that. I have an agent for picture books with the Seymour Agency. And so she's working on putting my books out there. But this is the first one that I have that I wrote and illustrated myself from cover to cover and published on my own. So here's the book. I don't know if it's backwards on you guys. On me, I can see it fine, but and it's called The RHINOCORN. And the quick little blurb on the back is she's unlike any other animal on the savannah. She's a rhinocorn. But when she loses her beautiful rainbow horn in a tragic meerkat den debacle, she ends up searching for a replacement until a friend reminds her that being special comes from the heart, because it's what's on the inside that truly counts. So it's basically a story about how she thinks that her worth lies in what she looks like, when she realizes at the end it's really not that. It's what she's done with her life and how she's helped others, and it's the beauty within that counts. So if you'd like, I can start reading it. I'll go through it quickly.
Okay.
But yeah. Okay, so this is just the title page, and I won't bore you with all this stuff, but here's the first page, and it's every morning Ruby rose resplendent. It's full of alliterations. So, and because she's unlike any other animal on the Serengeti, she is the rhinocorn. Ruby loves prancing across the plains. She loves frolicking through the forests, and she loves dancing over the dunes. When she prances and dances and frolics, all of the other animals admire her beautiful horn. It shines bright in the sun, sparkling and dazzling and magical, a rhinocorn's horn. One day, while pirouetting past primates, she tripped on a trunk and took a tumble. And then I kind of turned it, so she rolled and rolled and rolled down the hill and landed in a meerkat den. When Ruby rose, she railed, "My horn!" Her beautiful horn had snapped clean off. She peered into the deep, dark den. "I need my horn back," she cried, but there was no answer, and worse yet, no horn. "Hello? Oh no, I'm ordinary, I'm average, I'm plain, I'm not special." When worried they might laugh at her, Ruby edged past the elephants. She wriggled past the wildebeest and crept past the crocodiles. About to inch past Impala, she noticed an acacia branch. With some sticky sap, she'd make some glue. No one would know the difference. With a scrape of its bark, she slapped the sap on her nose and then stuck the stick on. Perfect. But the acacia's thorns snagged every low-hanging leaf, and her lovely horn became roost to boisterous bee-eaters, a sassy starling, and one very confused crane. She shooed them away and then, tugging off the branch, swabbed the sap from her nose. "I'll never be the rhinocorn again. I'll never be special." But then she spied something superb, a broken kudu horn. It glistened in the sun, all twisty and turny and pointy at one end. With honey from a beehive, she'd make some glue. No one would know the difference. With a scrape of the comb, she slapped some honey on her nose and then hefted the horn on. She imagined her stardom as she spun across the sand. "Why, with a horn this spectacular, I'll be dressed to impress. I'm the rhinocorn." The giraffes would genuflect, the storks would salute, and the mandrills would marvel. But as she wandered past the watering hole, bumbled through the bush, and sauntered onto the savannah, she couldn't help feeling foolish as the honey attracted a bazillion buzzing bees, and her heavy horn hounded her with a headache, and then finally fell off. But just then a young rhino and her mother stopped by. "Hi, Ruby," the little one said with a sunny smile. "I didn't recognize you." "I know, I lost my beautiful rhinocorn horn. I'm not special anymore." The little rhino shook her head. "It's not how you look that makes you special. It's what's on the inside that counts. You're special without your horn. You're kind and helpful." The little rhino giggled. "And you're the most delightful dancer we've ever seen. Everyone loves when you frolic through the forest and samba across the savannah." I actually still feel like a rhinocorn. I still walk like a rhinocorn and talk like a rhinocorn and do good deeds like a rhinocorn and rumble like a rhinocorn." A sudden burst of pride overwhelmed her. "I am the rhinocorn. I am special." So with a spin and a twirl and a leap and a whirl, Ruby did what she did best. She danced across the delta and never worried about her appearance again, because it's what's on the inside that truly counts. The end.
How long does it take to write a book?
I think it depends on the author. When I put my mind to writing this book, it took me approximately 2 months total.
So it's a lengthy process. It really depends on the type of book, how long I've been working on it, but on average, I would say it takes about a year to get a solid rough draft, and then it takes a couple months to edit and revise and everything, but I would say a year is about average.
Okay, so I've written adult novels, as I mentioned a little while ago, and I'm published in adult fiction as well, adult romance novels, paranormal stuff, which I love. That, a full-length novel of 95,000 words, takes about, for me, a year. It's a long time. I do work a day job. You know, I work 40 hours to 50 hours a week, and then I have other artwork commissions that I do, so it takes a while. A children's book, I'll be honest, I can do that in 2 hours. So it just depends if I have the inspiration at that moment and it pops into my head. The next book that I wrote that's with my agent right now called There's a Bird on Your Back. That one I wrote in an hour and a half at 2 o'clock in the morning. I just popped up out of bed and I was like, oh my God, I need to write this, wrote it down, and then went back to sleep. So it just depends. But just because it takes me that long or that short doesn't mean that that's right or wrong for anybody else. So just keep that in mind.
What kind of book did you write?
My first published book is a narrative poem. I just illustrated it.
So I prefer fantasy and adventure, and so each of my books typically have some type of fantasy and adventure in them.
Okay, so I've written adult novels, as I mentioned a little while ago, and I'm published in adult fiction as well, adult romance novels, paranormal stuff, which I love. That, a full-length novel of 95,000 words, takes about, for me, a year. It's a long time. I do work a day job. You know, I work 40 hours to 50 hours a week. And then I have other artwork commissions that I do, so it takes a while. A children's book, I'll be honest, I can do that in 2 hours. So it just depends if I have the inspiration at that moment and it pops into my head. The next book that I wrote that's with my agent right now called There's a Bird on Your Back. That one I wrote in an hour and a half at 2 o'clock in the morning. I just popped up out of bed and I was like, oh my God, I need to write this, wrote it down, and then went back to sleep. So it just depends. But just because it takes me that long or that short doesn't mean that that's right or wrong for anybody else. So just keep that in mind.
How do you come up with ideas for a book?
I get my ideas from maybe a problem that I want to solve or a message that I want to get out. And that's usually where I get my ideas. Or I'm inspired or moved by something.
So personification is probably my favorite figurative language, and so what I typically like to do is I like to figure out play on words or how I can incorporate as much figurative language and descriptive imagery into my books as possible.
Normally the ideas just pop into my head, for lack of a better word. I love the children's stories. I love anything with animals in them for some reason, and I like to give them I guess, human personalities, you know, because obviously a rhinoceros isn't going to dance around, you know, on the Serengeti, but my rhinoceros does. So I like to project human personalities onto the animals that I use. So I love African animals. Rhinoceroses and elephants are my favorites, and so I have quite a few stories with that. But I tend to be a very creative person to begin with, and so I always have ideas running around in my brain. It keeps me from sleeping most nights because my brain is always on and always working, so that's difficult about it. But I'm not a numbers person, I'm a creative art person. So I guess I just pull my inspiration from all over the place. Wherever I'm looking at that moment, I guess, can pull inspiration for me.
How do you draft your books?
For this particular book, I did create and use a graphic organizer. I mapped out how I wanted my story to go. I had pictures. It's called a storyboard. I used a storyboard to start to put this book together. I already had the idea in my head, so it was nothing that I had to, because it's based on some real life events. So I already had the ideas in my head. I just had to map it out and organize it. So I used a storyboard to help me write this book.
So what's worked for me is I use what's called a scattered thoughts journal. It's simply just a journal that's empty, and I go through and I start making an outline, and as I create the character, I do a character sketch, and then I do a characterization paragraph about that character, and then I will go through and kind of start tying everything together and putting all the pieces together, like almost like a puzzle. And then when I start typing, as I'm typing, I just kind of let everything flow. And then when I get to like that writer's block, I typically will write myself just a couple little notes to kind of keep the idea flowing. But I kind of just, I have the idea, and then the idea comes to life when I'm writing.
I wish I could be one of those people that have like an organizational thing and Excel sheets and, you know, special, you know, paper that, you know, has different boxes. And, you know, I wish I could be one of those people, but I'm not. I'm one of those people that takes, this is what it looks like. I will show you right here. It's just, you know, a binder that I just write down stuff on. And there's a bird on my back, the story that I just finished. I mean, it's literally this. I just write it down, and mostly I'm scratching it out, and then I redo it. And so, yeah, it's not anything special that I do. I wish I could, but I usually like to have a pad of paper somewhere in the house, and I have glasses all over because I can't see anything. So I have readers all over. So when an idea comes to mind, I jot it down. And if I don't have a piece of paper, I put it in my phone in notes, and then I just come back to it later. So there's all different ways to do it, and no way is correct. It just, I guess, is what works for you. So, and that works for me.
Okay, go.
How do you publish your book?
Authors have a couple ways. You can submit your manuscript to a publisher, or many people these days are taking the route of self-publishing, which is the route that I took.
So it's kind of a process, but what I do is I write the manuscript, I do a lot of the editing, and then I actually format the interior of the book. After I format the interior of the book, it lets me know the spine length, which is the end of the book, and then I hire somebody to actually do the cover. I do a rough draft of the cover, but then I hire somebody to do the cover for me. But then I go through what's called KDP, which is Amazon's self-publishing, and I submit the files, and it is published.
So I used Amazon. Amazon is really easy. For my particular book, the children's picture book, I had to make sure that I had all the artwork to specific dimensions ahead of time, and that's something that Amazon is very good about, you know, offering the dimensions. So I just, you know, used Photoshop, put all of the dimensions and the artwork into the like template. And then I went in and you just kind of upload everything into Amazon. They do all the work for you. And then they post it on Amazon and it's for sale. It's really awesome. It's easy and fun. And anybody that wants to write a book, even a young kid, you know, I saw a YouTube video with a 12-year-old that wrote a book and published his own book on Amazon. So anybody can do it.
How did you pick an illustrator?
It was actually something that I had trouble with initially. So I think I'm a part of different groups on social media for writers. And I just asked people that were in my group, you know, who are your illustrators? Where can I find one? And then there was a family member that I actually sat and talked with, and she referred me to a website called Fiverr. And I believe there's more than a couple out there where you can hire someone to do your illustrations for you. So I found someone on Fiverr that was willing to work within my budget.
So illustrators are really fun to pick because what I do is I draw a really horrible rough draft of what I want the cover to look like, and then I typically go and I put an ad out for an illustrator to design a book cover, and I get all these emails back, and these people send me their portfolios, they send me their animations, and I get to go through all these people's artwork and decide which person is the best fit for the cover that I'm looking for. However, in my newest book that's coming out over fall break, Miss Skylar Case actually was the one that did my illustration for the cover.
I used to always do all of my artwork on a sketch pad, you know, with colored pencils, or on canvas with acrylic paints, and do all of it that way. But I don't do that anymore, except for some of my art shows. I do some canvases that way. But the way that I draw all of this art, every single bit of the art in this book was drawn on, you know, Photoshop. It was drawn in a computer. It's all digital, and there's different brushes within Photoshop that make it look like it's done with colored pencil, or make it look like it was done with chalk, or it's an amazing, amazing program, Photoshop. I can't tout its wonderful, you know-ness more. And then I draw on what's called a Cintiq. So I have a special, and it's right here. I don't know if I'll be able to show you, but this, and you can see your face there, but it's basically it's a drawing pad, a lot like a iPad, but this one, the surface of it, when you draw with it, the pen, it feels like paper, and it's just a regular, it's a digital pen, and it has over 800 pressure points on it, which I think is overkill, but hey, and you can, you know, turn it and shade, you can write on, it's just absolutely amazing. But the surface of the Cintiq, when you draw on it, feels like paper. So it's very amazing. So I do all of the artwork digitally with my computer and on a special drawing tablet that I have specifically for the digital art, which I love. I will never go back. It's amazing. Because there's a lot of people who will write a children's book that are not good artists, and you don't want to be a mediocre artist and illustrate your book and put it out there. If the art is not up to snuff and it doesn't look professional, buyers are going to realize that, and they're going to see that, and it's going to make a difference. And like I said, it might be the difference between them picking up the book and going, oh, I don't know, and not even looking what it's about. It could be the best story on earth, but if the artwork, especially on the cover, is not up to snuff or doesn't look professional, then they might pass that wonderful story by. So a lot of children's book authors, they have to go through online to find illustrators. There's a lot of different websites, and unfortunately I don't know them off the top of my head since I am an illustrator, but there's a lot of different websites that you can Google and say, you know, you need to hire an illustrator, or you can go on Facebook and that you might be able to find Facebook groups that let you know, because there's a lot of indie authors out there that can't draw, that let you know how to find a good illustrator. So there's a lot of different avenues. It's just expensive, you know, to find an illustrator. I know because I have illustrated other children's book authors' books, and I know what I've charged for that. And it's not easy to find a great illustrator, you know, for a decent price.
How do
So
you get people to notice your book?
Nowadays, most people use social media, and I do too. My first part of my plan was to just share my book with my closest friends and family. And from there, I leverage social media to promote my book. I have my business page for Firebird Free Publishing.
So this is a trying question because, especially being a self-published author means that you have to do your own marketing. You have to do your own advertising. And it's been really difficult, but I've noticed that creating a Facebook page has gotten me a little bit of business, as well as I am working currently to publish a website, so that way I can list all of my books on there. But Amazon is probably the best way for marketing and getting my book noticed.
my artwork. I think that my artwork speaks for itself, if I may say so myself. It's really colorful. I'm pretty good at it. And I think that is really important in drawing someone's eye, because there's a lot of people that will pick up a book at first and might not even turn it around to look at what it's about. But if they see that cover, and if that cover draws them in, whether it's the colors or the focus that's on the, you know, cover, if the cover has artwork that draws them in, I think that's your first battle. You know, once you have a great cover, then, you know, most people will turn it around and look and see what it's about. And then if they like that, maybe they'll open it up, and that's, you know, half the battle right there. It's just getting them to open the book and read the first page. So yeah, I also do adult novel book covers as well. I work for a company where I do the book covers for just regular fiction and nonfiction books. So I do digital art in that respect as well too. And of course, that translates too. You need to have a great cover for someone to first pick it up. So yeah.
My book is available pretty much anywhere online. If you just Google the book, it'll come up in different stores like Barnes and Nobles, Books A Million, Amazon, but usually I refer people to my Amazon link.
So I do sell it through Amazon. Amazon is the publishing company that I use, and so it's called Print on Demand. So each book that is ordered, they print a copy of the book for me.
First and foremost on Amazon. So Amazon is my main supplier right now. There are other vendors that I need to get in touch with in order to possibly sell to libraries and bookstores, local, you know, small indie bookstores. But without an editor or an agent, I can't get into, and I have an editor or an agent, but they haven't sold this book yet. I can't get into like Barnes and Noble or, you know, any of those big bookstores like that. So I sell via Amazon, but I also sell. Just this past weekend, I was at a conference, a writers conference, and we had a big book signing where, you know, the local people came in to see all their favorite authors and pick up some books. So I was able to sell a lot of books at the book signing and sign for them. I also do art shows as well, because I also do paintings and regular non-digital art. So I sell at the art shows as well too. So I have one in October, at the end of October. We are in October. The end of October, where I'll have my own tent and booth, and I will sell the copies because I'm able to acquire them or obtain them from Amazon as author copies. So I can sell them. Just that's how I got this one right here. I just, you know, have it and I can sell it out. So yeah, that's how I do it.
Is it possible to work on more than one book at the same time?
see why not. I didn't. I think I start one and then I might put that down and then pick up, and I started this project because the other 2 books, I started one after this one and I started the relationship book before this one.
I absolutely believe that you should definitely be working on multiple books at the same time, because when you hit that writer's block, it's better to be working on something rather than not working on anything. And so if I hit a writer's block with one manuscript, then I typically move to another manuscript until I work through the writer's block on the first manuscript. And so currently I am working on 3 or 4 manuscripts that I'm hoping to be published in the next couple years.
100% yes, and that's what I do. I'm a crazy multitasker. So there's been times when I've worked on 3 books at once. It just depends, and that's with the adult novels. And I wouldn't recommend that because you have different characters in each story, and sometimes you start getting them confused. But you know, for some people it works and some people it doesn't. But yeah, I work on multiple things at once. In fact, that's my day-to-day life. So while I'm working, I'm looking over here because I have my work computers all set up over here, the screens, and then in front of me I have my artwork. So I'm working on work, and every 10 minutes I come over here and I start doing a little art, and then I come back. And so yeah, multitasking for me is what does it.
How do you have the patience to write a book?
Well, you have to have lots of patience with any project because writing, creating, and publishing a book is your baby. It's a project. It's coming from you. So you have to have lots of patience with yourself. I made a lot of mistakes, learned lots of lessons along the way, but it was worth it in the end.
So patience is a virtue that I have been working on trying to teach myself throughout my 32 years of life on this planet. And it is, for me, writing is my therapy, and it's my form of escape. And so when I'm having a really bad day and I go and sit in front of my computer and I just type, I kind of disappear into this world that I've created. So ultimately, with the patience that's involved in it, is that to me it's like my form of medicine. And so it's like I am creating this world as I'm creating it in my mind, if that makes sense.
Excellent question, especially a full-length novel. My God. But I will tell you this, it's never come to the point where I felt like, you know, when you're telling a story and when you have that in you, it's something that just comes out. I don't think it's patience. I think what happens sometimes is you hit a brick wall and you don't know exactly where you're going to turn, if you're going to turn right or left. And then of course you need to keep in mind all of the, you know, goal, motivation, conflict for the characters, and you need that arc. And so there's a lot of that comes into play, but I wouldn't call that, you know, that patience. It does get frustrating, you know, when you can't. That's actually a great question, man, because I'm sitting here saying it's not patience, but maybe it is patience. You know, you have to have patience to be able to sit there for a year and write a story that's, you know, 95,000 words and make it all make sense. So yeah, actually that's very good. I don't know where I find the patience from. I guess it's because I love the story so much, whatever I'm writing, because I hope that most authors love what they're writing. If you don't love what you're writing, then why are you doing it? But I think most authors love their story enough that they will keep pushing through and breaking through those walls that might pop up so that they can get to the end. So I guess patience kind of takes a back seat to creativity and wanting to finish for me.
Incomplete books do you have?
One children's book and one relationship book.
I have, I would say, at least 5 or 6 incomplete manuscripts.
What is the part of a book you struggle with the most?
Probably since I'm such a perfectionist, probably just making sure it's perfect as it can be. I do a lot of revisions before I did many revisions before I was ready to put that out, and had some other people look over it as well.
So the part that I struggle with writing a book the most would actually be the editing and revising. I feel like it's very taxing because you have to go through and you read your manuscript that you just created like 4 or 5 times. And so by like the 3rd or 4th time, you're like, ugh, I'm reading the same book that I've already wrote. And so it just gets real taxing. And then it's like very minute little problems, you know, commas and capitalization. Did I actually say the same color from 3 chapters before in this chapter now? And so the editing and revising is probably the most difficult part of writing.
Plotting is very difficult, and that's in the adult novels. So the children's book, you still need to have a plot, obviously. And for the most part, unless it's a cute little board book, you know, for a 3-year-old, you really need to have some kind of character arc for the most part, you know, not a huge one. But in the adult novels, it's a much different situation. And I struggle with plotting out a full-length book. So I will get this great idea for this, you know, a vampire and, you know, whatever, you know, and to have this dystopian world that they're living in. And I can, you know, see that world and the characters, what I want them to be like and what their backstories might be. But fleshing out that entire story from beginning to end is not easy. And some people can just spit it out and they've got it there. Other people are, you know, plotters where they'll sit and they'll plot out their entire book before they write page 1. I wish I could do that. I'm not like that. I'm what they call a pantser. So I write by the seat of my pants is basically what it is. And I'm also extremely linear. So some people will write you know, a scene here, a scene here, a scene here, and all these different scenes, and then they'll put them together. I hear that that's how Margaret Mitchell did Gone with the Wind. I can't do that. I have to write from page 1 to the last page without deviating, and it stinks. So that's where the patience comes in. I don't have patience for that, and it's hard for me to plot. So in long answer, plotting is my worst. I think that's the worst part of my process. I have critique partners that help me with that, and sometimes we can plot through, but it just has to come within you, and some people are good at it and some people are not. So plotting.
Who or what inspires you to write?
Who inspires me? My students inspire me. My children inspire me. My partner inspires me. Whoever I'm encountering, whoever is moving on my heart, those are the people that inspire me. And I love to read, so I love children's books. That was one of my favorite things to do when I was a kindergarten teacher, was to have the read aloud. My favorite part of the day. I loved being so animated and making the stories exciting for children. It just lights them up and warms my heart as well.
So, a long time ago, when I was in elementary and middle school, I was obsessed with reading K.A. Applegate's books called The Animorphs, and I read every single one of her books that she published in that series. When the series was over, I stopped reading, and I realized that I couldn't find another book that that got my attention, and so I decided that I wanted to write a book that I wanted to read.
The first thing that came to my mind, and I'm going to say it, is my husband. I'm a widow, Dusty. He passed away 8 years ago, and he was amazing. And he constantly encouraged my artistic endeavors. So he was very inspirational. And I will say that my kids, I mean, I've got 2 grown kids. Blake is amazing in every way, and everything she does I think she's strong and amazing, and that kind of personality is put into a lot of my characters. But I also like that she's not only strong and she perseveres, but she's also funny. So I like the humor aspect as well. So I would say my family is who inspires me.
Mostly fiction, fantasy stories. Well, I like to daydream a lot, and some for fun. It's kind of ripping up, but I like to sometimes make these fantasy books about me as a Pokemon trainer that follows the current story that's happening.
Yes, it's called, the title that I'm working with right now is called Dreams and Reality. And it's about this girl who's been having these weird dreams and for months, and she doesn't know why, so she's trying to find out.
I mainly like to write about like fantasy or like magical kind of stuff, like for example like Harry Potter, that kind of stuff. Or sometimes I like to write like make like little comic strips sometimes.
Mystery. I love writing mystery stuff.
I like to write about fantasy and science fiction.
Well, the thing is, I really like to write about many different things. It's just like, I have a lot of ideas in my head normally, and I just kind of mesh sort of some of them together sometimes. And so, I don't know, I normally don't write realistic things, like realistic human things, but like maybe something unrealistic that could happen in like a real life setting, maybe.
My favorite thing to write about, I would say, is like realistic fiction, but with like just a hint of magic in there, like something that's kind of out of the ordinary, not, just it spices it up a little bit.
Definitely important things that are either important issues that have to do with outside topics, or if it's just plain creative writing, if I get like a topic from a teacher, I also like kind of creating my own story, so kind of a broad spectrum.
Don't really have a plan. I just have like an idea and like I just start writing. My mom got me this cool like storymatic thing. So sometimes it's like this deck of cards. Like there's a blue side and a yellow side, and I take one from each, and then whatever it like says, I can like write a story about it. Like for example, like snowmen and like eats an ice cream cone, like that.
It's surprising for what I write because I write it as the story develops in my head. And so when surprises happen, and it's really fun. And also I like ways that I can express my feel. I like ways to express feelings, but yeah, sometimes I get caught up because basically sometimes I have more than one daydream at once.
Okay.
And then my story gets caught up in every single one, grade. I'm just trying to write one.
They come to me, then I think about them for a while, and then I write them out.
Okay.
I mean, usually I'm either watching like a show or movie or just reading something and like a specific plot comes to my head and I kind of start writing an intro. Sometimes I just kind of abandon them and come back later, but like, yeah, usually it's just based off something that I've just seen myself.
Oh no, I definitely don't have a plan, like at all. I just, once I get like a little tiny topic, then I just keep writing, and with the descriptive words I use when I write, that brings like more fluidity with my writing, so I can just continue to keep writing and writing and writing.
It's more go with the flow. I kind of get the central plot in my mind, but it's more go with the flow.
I'd say that it's more go with the flow, to be honest. Like, I have a brief outline, like a general idea of what I'm going to do, but then I find that things tend to fall into place.
Normally, it's more of a go with the flow. Normally, I have just one thought or one sentence that has popped into my head that I like how it's figured, and then I just kind of go from there. I'll be honest, in the 5th grade, I really didn't like to write that much. I kind of hated it. My 5th grade teacher, his name was Mr. Garcia, and he made us like write a lot, and he kind of introduced me to my love for writing, and that's how I fell in love with writing, and then I just like kept on writing for all these years.
Just like you can use like your imagination, and basically you can write about just about whatever you want, pretty much, unless like it's like for a grade or something like that, and they tell you what to do in school. But yeah, besides that, you can like write whatever you want. You can use like your imagination and that kind of stuff.
Creative writing? Just something fun to do.
Now you just have to, you get creative freedom with it. Like, you can write to your heart's desire. If you want to write a 5-paragraph short, not 5-paragraph, if you want to write a 5-sentence horror story, write it. If you want to write a 10-page horror novel, write it. If you want to write a 1-page something else, do it. Because writing is, you just get to have this creative freedom that I love.
I like that you have a lot of creative freedom when you're writing. I can technically write about whatever I want to, when I want to. It's just, it makes it really easy to just keep on writing and writing without no restraint, so I don't have to be like, oh, wait, no, I can't do that. I can just go ahead and keep writing.
It's just, I feel like it's just a way to express yourself, and it's just really like you can make your own world where you can just write wherever you want and make whatever happen.
I like expressing myself with writing, and like I love just plot and figuring out what's gonna happen and just putting it into action.
I like the ability to kind of connect with people you're reading it to, or just yourself. I think it's a way of expression, and it can connect to a lot of people.
least favorite thing about writing when I get stuck on something.
Oh my goodness. My least favorite thing about writing would have to be editing. I do not like having to go back and edit.
Least favorite thing. Sometimes I get, like, I have a slump. Like, I get to a part, like, I've written the thing that I'm most excited to write about, and then it just hits a wall. And, you know, it can be difficult to work through that, but, you know, it's you know, you gotta finish, so.
Probably just actually having to write it out. Like, when I write, I like to type it, but having to write it down on paper, you know, I'm not a great speller, so it's a lot more time consuming, and it just takes kind of a lot of time.
I've been spending, like, I'm pretty sure an average of about 12 hours a week, maybe.
Well, mostly whenever I get into the mood of writing something, I might do it for hours, I might do it for like a couple of minutes. It's just whatever I'm feeling at the time.
Okay. I mean, normally when I get home after I do my homework, I normally like write for like an hour or so, a little bit, or like if I don't have an idea, I just like maybe listen to music and like try and think of some ideas or something like that. Okay.
I'd say weekly, not daily for sure, because I'm usually busy.
I mean, in general, I write daily. Usually they're short, and I end up like not liking them. But I write often, and it kind of totals up to be a long time.
Let's see. So I write a lot of poetry on my free time. I tend to like, I'm not focusing on like a chapter book per se, or like a long like story in my own free time. I do when I have to write narratives or like essays for class. I normally extend those a lot, so those take a little bit. But when I do write my poetry at home, I like to spend like, I don't know, little like 30 increment times on it.
Probably an hour a day.
In general, well, like, I write a lot just, like, as a log, like, just kind of like a diary sort of thing. But creative writing, I'd say I spend, like, a couple hours a week if I have an idea, but sometimes I don't.
I write mostly, you know, anytime we're in class, I definitely do a lot of writing there. And I also take it outside of school, normally closer to bedtime, so probably like 30 minutes outside of school and however long we're doing it in school.
Most of the books I read, so like Harry Potter or like Tale of Emily Winsnap, those kind of books. Yeah.
I mean, not in like particular, like sometimes songs will like spark a specific idea. A lot of Taylor Swift songs, like she writes lyrics great, and they kind of inspire some of my stuff that I like to write.
I really like writing like it's old-timey. So the shows Anne with an E and the book and the movie Little Woman, those are really cool, really inspirational. They have really talented actors, and you know, the writers for Anne of Green Gables and Little Woman are just wonderful, superb. I love the language and the diction that is used, and it's just
very awesome to read, and I like to take inspiration from that.
John Flanagan has probably been one of the most influential writers in my life. He is a fantasy writer, and he's just really descriptive, and he kind of taught me a few things when I was reading his books about being descriptive.
So one of my favorite authors when I was growing up, her name was NATALIE Lloyd, and she wrote like exactly what I wanted to write. And then more recently, Claire Legrand has been like, she's my favorite. I love her book. It's called Some Kind of Happiness, and if you haven't read it, you should go read it right now because it's my favorite and I love it.
So personally, I don't have one person that I am influenced by, but I take a lot of inspiration from anything I see. If it's just a book, if it's a song, I kind of take the moral or the message I like and I kind of put it into my own little theme.